Good morning, everyone. It's your girls from Obscuration. Me, Tay, Dana. Well, for me, down in the left-hand corner. And today we bring a very special guest with us, Korey, who I'm not gonna lie. Internally, my little child is fangirling and has been since last night when I found out that you are the new voice of Barney. Which, if any
Yeah,
children ever see this, forget that we said it. He's nothing special. Just go swipe past this video and go somewhere else.
yeah. So there's a new like Barney's World animated series, and there's been a little confusion. I'm not part of that, but I do. I was hired by Mattel earlier in the year to do alongside that a the old classic costume version. So I do that. Uh, oh, I talk like Barney. Oh, it's so exciting. And do that kind of thing.
That is fantastic. And in my opinion, the cartoon Barney does not count. Like, I'm the old school. I watched it when I was a child, and I annoyed the living hell out of my mother with it.
Both my kids grew up watching Barney, so when Tay told me that little tidbit, taking a shower this morning, and I'm like singing, "I love you, you love me."
Yeah,
I
my
haven't,
dad.
I haven't thought of that song, and my kids are like 26 and 22 now, so
Yeah,
it's
my
been a
dad told
while.
he did like every time he brushes his teeth, he thinks of Barney. 'Cause he thinks of the when I'm brushing my teeth and having so much fun, I can never let the water run. No, I never let the water run. And he sings that in his head every single time because of when we were kids, we just ran that show into the ground. Like we watched it every
Yep.
single day over and over and over. That was when we were, when we were toddlers, and then after that we moved to like watching Blue's Clues and some of those shows too. So I think probably I watched it from when I was as early as I can remember to when I was probably I would say six, maybe five or so probably, and but that was like early '90s, so that was like prime time, Barney,
Oh,
like that was
yeah.
it was huge. I mean, they had a they're like the only kids show that I can think of that had an NBC primetime special where it was
Yes.
Yeah.
and it was like the only one. I mean, they had it on at like 6 in the afternoon on NBC. That's unheard of for a kids show. And we got to see them live, like they did the live shows, so we got to go to a couple of those. That was fun. So
That's
I
cool.
grew up with Barney, so it's fun to get to, in the small capacity that I did, some Barney stuff with Mattel. That was really, really a cool opportunity. It was fun.
That's awesome. So have you done any other voices that we would know? Not
Probably
like in
not,
a professional aspect.
probably not officially, like for the companies, but I do a lot of them online and TikTok and stuff. So I do a lot of Looney Tunes stuff. I do Scooby and Shaggy. So
Yeah.
hey, what's up, Doc? That kind of stuff. And rabbit season, duck season, rabbit season, rabbit season. Well, I say it's duck season, and I say fire. That kind of thing. And that's probably loud.
You
But
are extremely talented. I just have to say that right now because I'm sure you probably saw like a bunch of hearts going through last night, I think, on your Instagram as I was going
oh
through.
yeah,
Love it. Love it. Love it. It was basically like listening to my childhood come back to life. Where I'm like, oh my God, I remember watching all of these things.
yeah, that's what's funny is because like I've been doing these voices and stuff, just and impressions and things since I was a little kid, and everybody was like, "Oh, you're so good at it," and a lot of it was like friends and family and stuff. So I was just like, "Yeah, they're just being nice."
Yeah.
I thought I was good at it, but I've never been the kind of person to like look for the attention or like it's just not what I was.
Hmm.
So it was kind of weird. Like my wife and my uncle and my dad, and my mom, everybody was kind of like pushing me, like you need to do something with this. Like you're really good. And I was thinking, yeah, I'm okay. I didn't have that much confidence that I was going to be very good at it. But my wife was finally like, look, you don't do something, I'm going to be really upset at you. And I was like, okay. So I put
That's the
some
way to do it.
I just made some videos basically of me doing a couple impressions and threw them on Instagram and TikTok and stuff, and it kind of like really fast started getting attention. And I think it's what you were saying is because it's a lot of the voices I'm doing are like cartoon shows that people grew up watching,
Hmm.
and they really enjoy it. And I think that's probably what it is. It's just it's recognizable stuff that people like, and
Yeah.
fun. You know?
Well, it instantly just takes you back to the time when, like, especially with the Looney Tune stuff, or even like your Shaggy and Scooby, and even your Scrappy Doo. Like listening to those come together instantly takes me back to laying on the floor, coloring or eating breakfast while watching Saturday morning cartoons.
Cartoons.
Yeah.
And
I don't
it's
even,
just,
Saturday morning cartoons aren't even a thing. I don't think anymore. It's all streaming, and if it is,
yes.
it's not live television anymore. So I just have streaming. So
Yep.
it's crazy. But yeah, it's cool because a lot of those shows are really timeless. I mean, my daughter's 4. Um, her favorite shows, because of us probably mainly, is she loves Scooby Doo. She loves Looney Tunes. She will sit and watch Looney Tunes for hours. Recently, she's really picked up loving Pink Panther, which is funny
Oh.
because I showed her a couple of loved it, like so. But she likes like some of the normal like stuff like when she was real little she liked Coco Melon. She's kind of moved out of that, but she likes Barney too. She thought it was cool whenever I got that job because she recognized it as me, which is
Mhm.
Oh.
really close to Bob West, and I've tried really hard to do that, the original, and I got to meet him. He invited me to Comic Con that was about 3 or 4 hours away from where I live, and he was like, "Hey, we should get together," which was really cool. And we made a video together, which was really fun.
Wow,
We were
nice.
together, we were just doing a line at a time, and I think that's when I really realized, like, man, I can really sound like his stuff.
Mhm.
Because singing, and it's like you can kind of like to me, like some people have told me like I can't tell the difference. To me, I can, but that's only because I'm really particular. But
Yeah.
it's so close that I was like, man, I'm really, really close to that.
And I think that was exactly it, because it was when I was watching some of your videos, it was that instant. It's like there might be maybe some slight pitch difference, I would think. But I mean, for me, it's been so long since I've seen the original Barney that I
Yeah,
can't even tell the difference. Like it's literally you close your eyes and you're like, nope, nope, that's him, or that's
Just
oh, that's
Barney.
definitely that's Barney, that's Hank Hill, that's Shaggy. Like you get them so well done, and I'm glad I'm glad that basically your wife like blackmailed you into it. It's like I will be disappointed if you don't do something. Well done,
uh,
well done to your wife.
she kept on at me for like months, and she was like, she would get almost to the point of angry. Like, if you don't do something, I'm gonna be extremely pissed off at you. Finally, I was kind of mad at her when I was like, okay, just leave me alone about it, and I'll do it. And I don't know. I just thought I didn't think it was that big of a thing. I didn't think I thought because I've done other things before. Like I've done music back in the past. Like right out of high school, I was in like a little band that we played. We did like 4 shows, but we did have like we recorded like an EP and all of that. So, and trying to promote that was like
Mm.
awful. Like you couldn't get anybody to like. I would make CDs. I mean, it wasn't bad. It was pretty good. I mean, it was decent. But I would make CDs and just hand them out to people, trying to give them to them for free, and they wouldn't even take them. So it's like they wouldn't even listen to them. So I didn't see that as being something where I was like, oh yeah, I'm really going to be able to promote myself online. Like I just didn't think that was the thing that I was going to be able to do. I didn't think anybody would be interested in it. But I guess I was wrong. I mean, it picks up pretty quick, and then I've gotten to like I don't have an agent, but I've been able to get some pretty good work, which is kind of cool. because when you don't have an agent, you get to keep all the money.
Yeah, that's really the big part.
Yeah, but at the same time, I want to get an agent at the same time. It was just kind of still, I think it's like, oh, why would you want to give up some of your money? But it's like, I'm not making a ton of money doing it. It's kind of more of a hobby right now. But the having an agent gets you a lot more like, audition opportunity.
Right.
I need to
So,
do.
approximately how many voices can you do?
I tried to make a list. My wife was trying to have me do that a while back, and I think we got to like 70 something. But I would say like 50 or 45 are probably like really, really, really close. And then the rest of them, it's like you can recognize who it is, but it's not perfect.
Right. Who are your
Oh,
favorite?
my favorite's always Bugs Bunny. Like that's my favorite cartoon of all time. It's Bugs Bunny. So that's my favorite. And then, like you said, Scooby and Shaggy, like, hi, Scooby Doo. Where are you, man? Ooh, over here. Scooby Dooby Doo.
That's
I like,
crazy.
Right?
and the let me at him, Uncle Scooby. That kind of thing. Those
See?
are my favorite. I love their shows.
Yeah.
Right.
I grew up watching Scooby Doo. In fact, my papa, when I was young, because I was so infatuated with Scooby Doo, that was my nickname. That's what he called me, was Scooby, and I actually have a
Right.
Scooby tattoo on my shoulder.
And your username everywhere is Scooby.
Yeah, in my username.
Yeah, my wife has a Scooby and Shaggy tattoo, like the one. It's like a picture of them, and then behind the background is the haunted house from the opening credits.
Oh,
She,
Nice.
that is fantastic.
I think whenever she told me whenever she found out I could do that, she was just like, "Okay, I love this guy even more because that's like my favorite cartoon characters, and he sounds just like him."
You can hear just a voiceover, and that was the moment she chose. Yes, I
Yeah,
will marry him.
that's, yeah.
So,
That's awesome.
are there, I'm gonna guess because you're a voice actor, most of the time there's a wide range of things, and a lot of people don't realize how often voice actors are used in things. Um, so are there any like now that you've had Barney, are there any sort of like dream jobs that you'd love to get a voice into? Like, is there any video games, any movies, TV series, anything like that?
Well, I mean, they have a guy playing Bugs Bunny and all the Looney Tunes. I would love to do that, but the guy's really good, so I don't see that, and he's young, so I don't see that happening. Um, but he's a really talented guy. He can do all kinds of stuff. I think his name's Eric Baza, I think is his name. Really good at what he's doing. Anything like that. It would be cool to, there's a lot of those legacy characters like Scooby and Shaggy and stuff. I'd love to do that, but at the same time, the people doing them now are fine. So there's,
Right.
where like Matthew Lillard, that's Shaggy now, has been since he did the live action movie. Um, he's made the character his own. I mean,
Mhm.
it's like not Casey Kasem, but it's still Shaggy. So he's like his own. He's made his own version of Shaggy, and it's to me is really good.
Mhm.
Um, and that's a cool thing to be able to do too, and that's hard to do because it's a
Yes.
separate character to be able to like make it your own and it not be exactly what everyone's used to hearing is really hard. Um, and a lot of people, I know a couple of people professionally that I've worked with, or that I know and I've worked with before, that have been offered things like that, where they were saying, "We want you to play this character, but we don't want it to be like, we don't want it to sound like the original." And they just turned it down because they were like, "There's no way I can make a voice that's going to be as good as the original," and I don't want to, be the person that's like everybody's like, "Oh my God, you ruined my childhood. You ruined this."
Yes.
So they've turned it down. One of those was my friend Jarrett Reddick, who's the lead singer of Bowling for Soup.
Oh yeah,
he
okay.
he plays Chuck E. Cheese. He did step into
Oh.
that character and kind of redo it, but but the other one he was actually offered Scooby Doo, and in the Scoob movie, I think it was for, and they were like, we want it to sound nothing like the original, and he was like, yeah, I can't do that.
Yeah, that what we were like, no, no, no,
Kind
no.
of they kind of ended up, when you see the actual movie, they did kind of go with like, here's real close to the originals, So,
So
but yeah, I'd love to do your original question. I rant. I go off on these like tangents.
You
Uh,
tangent away, we do it too.
yeah, your original question was, what characters would I like to play? Is that what you asked?
Yeah, yes. If you got to
Sorry.
be in a video game, movie, TV, whatever.
I do a lot of like YouTube stuff. So people will ask me, they'll like message me on Instagram or Facebook or something like, "Hey, I've got this series that I'm doing on YouTube, which is, would you want to play some characters?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that would be cool." And I'll do those pretty cheap, because it's just people making it content. But I grew up watching YouTube in the early days, so anybody that's actually still making original content that's not commercialized stuff, I like to do that stuff. It's fun. And then I've done, I do like commercial stuff for locals, local businesses. I've done some actually for somewhere in Canada, so nobody's ever heard it that I know. Um, and then I've done podcasts, like promo videos for different podcasts. I've done there's like a lot of different things. Worked with a kid. There's a kids show called Mr. K's Clubhouse. I've done some voice work for them in the past, and I've done some stuff that hasn't released yet. So I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about it. So
Just like that, you can feel the secret agents
la.
coming in.
Yeah, a lot of different things.
Wow, it sounds like a very interesting like progression. That
Hmm.
I mean, it's crazy. You know, as an unknown person just wandering the earth, last night we were talking about um and it's so funny, it's just we were talking about doing voices, and I said, for whatever reason, one of the characters that I can do is Dr. Nick Riviera from The Simpsons. And it's just one of those things. And then our friend Randy started laughing like Krusty the Clown, and it's just, but that's it. It doesn't expand beyond
Hmm.
him being able to laugh like Krusty's. So for you to be able to like make up a sentence in that voice is for
Yeah,
me.
that's the hard. So like I would say like I think it's a skill it's something that you like. I tapped into as a kid and realized, oh, I can kind of do this, and then I took a lot of interest in it. And I wouldn't say like, oh, everyone can do all these crazy voices and stuff. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that far, but I would say that there's a lot of people that could do it, but they just they don't do it. And
Right.
it's not that they're not. It's just they're not interested in it as much. So and
Hmm.
it's kind of like a weird, like there's part kids than people and adults, and they've just watched our cartoon and they're like, oh, I love this show. It's so great, and and they enjoy it. But then there's people like me and people like other voice actors where they sit there and they go, wow, that voice is awesome. Like, how could I want to sound like that? And that seems weird as a kid because you're a weird kid making a bunch of noises and making a bunch of sounds and everybody's looking at you like, kid, will you shut up? But it's fun, you just I started doing that as a really small kid, and I think I never have lost the interest in trying to, like, even to this day, like I'll hear a voice on a show or a movie or something. I'm like, oh man, that guy has a really cool voice, and that lady has a really good voice, and I'm like, a lot of times unfortunately if it's a female voice, that's harder for me to do. It's just not in my range, but
Hmm.
you know, I'm pretty good at the higher pitched male voices and mid range. There's some like I'd love to be able to do Morgan Freeman, but I can't. I just don't have the deep enough voice for that. But there's a lot of people doing Morgan Freeman. So.
Yeah, that's true. So,
Uh,
do you? I know, like, I've seen videos of other voice actors, and even actually, you know what? Now that I'm thinking about, even I say obviously, I was going to say normal actors, like the ones who go out and do the acting with the entire body, not just the voice. But I've seen that they have like what they use as like trigger sentences or words to kind of get them into whatever voice or accent that they need to get into. So do you have anything like that, or can you literally just pull it out and you're just like, oh, yep, here's the voice?
it depends on the voice. It really does
Yeah.
depend on the voice. This one that I've done a lot, like Bugs Bunny, I can pretty well say anything in that immediately. Um, Barney the same way because I've done so many, like I've done tribute shows, like 30-40 minute tribute shows for Barney for Canada. I've done 2 or 3 of those. I've done stuff for Mattel. I am actually working on one right now for not for Mattel, but for another tribute show out of the U.S. somewhere. I think it's in Canada or in California. I'm not positive. Um, so those kind of voices, the ones that I do a lot, I mean, I can just kind of say whatever I want to say immediately in them. Other voices where it's like, I think of an example. Um, and now I'm thinking, I can't think of anything. But like, there's some voices where you're just like, okay, you have to kind of start with one line, or at least in my head, I
Mm-hmm.
have to start with a certain thing, and then I'm like, okay, now I know that that's the pitch placement, that's how it goes, and then you can kind of branch out. When you're trying, I would say when I try to learn a voice, I definitely am trying to like mimic a phrase, mimic one of their phrases exactly as close as I can, and then you continually learn 3 or 4 phrases, 5 or 6 phrases, and then at that, like, I think you can, if you can do the impression of a line that they do, that's really cool. When you can go beyond that and you can say
Mm-hmm.
anything in that voice, that's when you know you've got the voice down, because that's that's where it's like the leap of really good impression to, okay, you can actually play the character,
Yes.
which is you know which is cool. That's like I don't know. I guess that's the line where it like jumps from, okay, you're good enough to just do the impression for people because it's cool. Which, so there's voices like that for me where it's like I can do the lines, but I haven't really gotten to the point where I can jump into this other. Um, so I
Other
don't
kind of
really do,
dialogue.
yeah, I don't really do those as much just because I'm like, well, if somebody asks me, hey, can you say this in the voice? I don't want to be like, no, not really.
Like,
So-
no.
So did you go to, like, after you realized that you had this incredibly unique talent, did you go to like voice coaches or anything like that?
Well, I was going to. So I started in, I posted a video up, I think it was like right before COVID. So um, I want to say it was end of 2019, maybe January of 2020. And I posted that up, and it took about a couple weeks before it started getting really noticed of what it was. And then I kept making some. And so then at that point, I had a couple. It was kind of cool because there's a handful of people that reached out to me that actually did the voices of these characters. And they were like, wow, like really, you did a really good job. That was really cool and nice to hear. One of them was Jeff Bergman, who does a lot of Looney Tune characters now. Um,
Okay.
and then Bob West that does Barney. I sent him a video clip just of me doing Barney, thinking he'll never even see this, and he did. He sent me back a message like, "Hey man, really really good, impressed." And then I just sent another message to him. I was like, "Hey, what are some tips you would give me getting into voiceover?" And I figured he's never going to respond to that because he probably gets that all the time. And I saw, like, on Messenger, I saw he read it, and then I didn't see a reply, and I was like, oh man, he's not going to say anything. I just, whatever. And then like 2 in the morning, I get this huge paragraph, and I find out later it's because he's so busy that he does graphic design and stuff too. So he was working, and then when he got done, he was like, "I'm gonna send this guy a message." He sent me these 4 or 5 paragraphs of messages of just here's
Wow.
everything you know to kind of get established, and if you'll do these things, you should be able to hopefully, with some luck, be able to get going on some work. And that was so nice of him. Like he's such a nice guy. It's kind of funny because there's people say, "Oh, you don't want to meet your heroes," and I guess that's probably true about a lot of people. But I will say the guy that Bob West that did Barney originally, who put in the voice, he's kind of like Barney. Like that's just kind of who he is. Like, he's very nice. He's very friendly. He's very excited and happy all the time. When you're around him, at least. So, um, yeah, he was really cool. So, what was your question? I'm sorry. I'm the worst.
Oh, if you went to a voice coach.
I like that neither one of us could remember. It's like,
I know. I'm sorry.
I'm too old to remember.
I wanted to go to those, but then right when I started kind of deciding that, okay, I'm going to dedicate some time to this now because it is getting some attention. Then COVID happened, and you couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, and so that was because I actually had planned, was like, okay, I'm going to go. There's a convention in Dallas this time in the summer of 2020, and then of course everything got canceled. So now I'm, at that point I had a year and a half before anything kind of started opening up again to where like those big convention type things. And I guess I could have looked for like an individual coach, but I think at that time I was like, I'm barely, I'm getting a couple of jobs at that point, like really small. Some of them I was doing for free just because I wanted to do it. And so I didn't really want to invest the money to, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, if not 1,000, to get a voice coach because I was like, I'm not that far into it yet. And, part of me, I probably will at some point. I probably will. I never have. I think it's definitely beneficial. I feel like you can learn a lot of it. But also during COVID, because I was kind of restricted to only being able to do things online, I found a lot of like content on YouTube, content from like voiceover people. A lot of there's master classes. One of them is I can't remember her name. I'm so bad with names. But the lady that plays Bart Simpson.
I know who you're talking about, and I can't think of her right now. She did. She's done a million voices.
Yeah, she has a master class that you can download, and it's about voiceover and mic technique and how to come into the studio, how to be able to be easily directed, how to approach new voices. It was really cool. I mean, it was very informative. So if somebody's wanting to like spend a little bit of money and get a lot of information, I would definitely recommend her masterclass because I did take that and it was great. I learned there's still techniques and things that I learned from that I use because it was really insightful and helpful. So yeah, I wanted to do. I would probably at some point have a voice coach. I think that'd be good, but I also want to be able to be like, this is my primary income, and I'm making enough to be able to afford that. But
it's Nancy Cartwright.
There we go.
That's what I went because that's what I remembered.
That's great.
Okay, so now, do you have a voice that's not your own, but one that you created?
I was just going to ask that same question.
Yeah. So all of the ones for that Mr. K's Clubhouse that I mentioned earlier, all those are original voices. I have I did a YouTube series that I've worked on that's called the Chronicle Files or something. I should know. But I'm bad with remembering. I have really bad memory. But Chronicle Cases, I think is what it's called. And all of I played like I think 8 or 9 different characters for those. Those are original. I think what else. you can kind of say a lot of the times when you're doing like a commercial or a promo, I mean, you're giving
Yeah.
a voice
It
now for
yeah.
yourself. It's not necessarily just exactly like anybody else's. But yeah, I've done a lot of those. Like um, one of the most recent one, I played a bunch of chickens, which was funny. It was for a kids show. Um, so you're playing a lot of like, oh, I can't wait to see things like different, just random pitches and random
Mm-hmm.
voices. And,
Okay. Now here's, could you do a voice of Santa Claus? And would you if you could, would you consider phone calls from Santa to like kids?
Oh.
well, I actually one of the Barney tribute shows that I did, we didn't it didn't get to come out, unfortunately. I had it all recorded, we finished it, and then there's a guy that was doing it for just for for fun in Canada. He had a Barney suit, and he left it in a room at this venue that he was going to, and somebody vandalized it, which was really sad.
Oh,
Oh.
But it was like a month before he was going to start doing these Christmas shows that we recorded and did. But I did play Barney, the announcer, basically everything in the entire show was its voices and me. So it was like the announcer, Barney, and Santa Claus. And so yeah, I'm trying to remember some of the lines from that, but it was basically like, um, I hope you've been a good little boy this year, things like that. It's just really generic, but
Which I mean is basically all Santa ever says between
Well-
ho 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 and Merry Christmas, hope you've been good.
well, I mean, as a parent of children who are now adults, when my kids got to the age where they kind of, that belief in Santa was wavering,
Yes.
I would have given my left arm just to be able to say, you know what? Santa's going to call you tomorrow night, and then set up with a voice actor to play Santa, to call my kid to, so that I didn't have to start changing all the name tags on the presents.
I do have Cameo. So like like I don't know if you heard of that, but it's like
I have, yes.
Yeah.
yeah, I have that. I don't really promote it very much. I probably should, but it's yeah. So I've had a couple people like where they'll order like a voice or video call, which I made it really as affordable as I can with that platform because they kind of charge a lot of fees. So a lot of times um, whenever people message me like on anything other than Cameo and they're like, "Hey, could you do a video shout out or something?" I'm like, "I have Cameo. However, if you'd rather just do it straight to me, send me something like through PayPal or I'll do it for like way less than what that is because half of that is fees." So
That's crazy, eh?
I'll do that. And but I've done like birthday messages. I wish I had it right here, but I don't. I have like a little puppet that I made of Barney, and I would do.
I've seen the videos with that.
I've done birthday messages for like 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, which is cool. I've even done some for adults that were like, I love Barney, when I was a kid, and it would be so cool to have Barney wish me happy birthday, and so then I have that. So that's fun. Um, I've done other things like I had somebody ask me, say, hey, I wanted to have somebody wish me happy birthday, and like I wanted to basically they listed every voice that they liked that I did. It's like here's 10 voices, and like I'd love for any of them to wish me happy birthday. So I just did it every single one of them, and they were like, they sent me back a message like, "Oh my gosh, that was so amazing! I figured you'd do like one or two. I didn't know you were gonna do all of them." And I was like, "Yeah, well, you said you liked all of them, so
So
it's fun."
so have you ever done something like that where the person has requested the voice of an actor that's actually like still alive?
It's still I like that question.
I wouldn't have thought of that one. So
Well, no, because nowadays, like, you
I've
can't
watched
say the word
was.
Kleenex on TV without somebody saying copyright infringement. You know what I mean?
True.
So,
Yeah.
so like for me, because I'm a huge fan of Lord of the Rings, so say Taylor hired you to wish me happy birthday as Gandalf, like Sir Ian McClellan. Could you do that? Would you do that?
I mean, I would. I'd have to learn how to do that voice. But actually, somebody asked me. There was a show for kids. Man, I don't know if I know the name of it. Something about it was a monster truck show. Um, my
That sounds
daughter does.
vaguely familiar.
My daughter doesn't watch it, so I can't remember what it's called. Um, but I had never seen it in my life. I don't even know. I've never seen a single episode, but I watched. They sent me a message like, "Hey, my son's favorite show is this," and I was like, "Okay." They were like, "You wish him a happy birthday or give him a birthday message," and I was like, "Yeah, I could probably do that." Let me look it up and see. And I said, "Give me a few minutes. Let me see if it's even within a range of anything I can do." And I listened to it, and there's some voices that I can hear it and I can mimic it at like 85 to 90% accurate, like immediately. And it's not very many, but it's some. And that happened to be one of them. And so I was able to sound really close. Um, and I actually got the instrumental version of the theme song, which I've never seen. But I watched when I looked up theme song, and I was like, okay. And I was like, is there an instrumental version? And like, I actually like watched about 10 minutes of an episode and like the greatest or like the best moments or something on YouTube. And I was like, okay, I got an idea of what the show was about. And I did the voice, two voices, basically just wishing this kid a happy birthday. I'll have to send it to you if I can find it. It was really good, actually. And what was funny was I did it at my other job. I manage a grocery store, and I sat in my office up there because I got this message and it was like they were about to go to the birthday party.
Oh, geez,
It was
nothing like last minute.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, damn.
but when it's like for a little kid, I try to do it. I'm available. So, I love kids. I love children. I think um, so I did that, and I actually like did all of this on my phone without, but it came out sounding really good because I put that music behind it. I like had, and they like loved it, and then that ended up getting two or three other people, parents there at the party that played it. And they played it for, and they were like, "Oh my god, that's awesome!" And they were like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to talk. I'm gonna have to call this guy, send this guy a message, and see if he'll do one for my kid." So, which is cool.
Very good word of mouth right there.
Right.
But
And that's how it has to be, right?
yeah, it's a lot of luck, actually. It's a lot of luck in getting connections to different people. I think what I'd really like to do is get into anime.
I was going to ask you about that too.
I'm not, I don't watch anime, to be honest with you. Like, I really don't. I watched Dragon Ball Z a little bit when I was a kid. Dragon Ball, different things like that. But it's huge. I mean, anime is everywhere.
Yeah,
and it's go to these conventions and Comic Cons. It's like, man, everybody like that's 80% of it almost now. Maybe not that high, but 50%.
I was going to say it's got to be getting up there now because I'll assume that you've heard of them, but like I'm a fan of Critical Role and all of the voice actors that are on the show, like Matt Mercer, Laura Bailey, Ashley Johnson, and most of them, when you look at their IMDb, DB. I can never remember the damn order of those letters.
Database.
Internet movie
I
database.
literally have never thought of it being database before, and now it'll fit. Now it'll be in there. But if you look at a lot of their credits, especially for Matthew Mercer, like a lot of it is anime based. And I mean, again, fantastic crew of voice actors, but a lot of their stuff, when people are like, "Oh, would I know their voices?" Like, well, if you're like most of the populace that is now out there, it's going to be a lot of anime based where you go, "Oh, I know that voice right away."
Yeah, it's a lot of it is done actually really close to where I live, like within like 2 hours. It's at Funimation, which is
Yes.
owns Crunchyroll,
Yep.
um, and they do all the dubbing and everything. And I have a friend that knows somebody that works there, so I'm like trying to be like, hey, he was trying to help me out. He's one of my best friends from high school, so he's like man, he's like, you got to get me a demo that sounds like, this anime stuff, character voices and stuff, and send it to me. He's like, this guy wants to hear what you got to do. So, um, hopefully that's something that happens because I'd love to do that. I mean, just because there's such a huge fan base behind it, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of people really, really enjoy it.
Oh
And
yeah.
I guess at that point I'd have to start watching some anime.
There's some, if so, depending on what you're into, there's a few of them. Like, I'm not a huge anime nerd. That's something like that's a very small niche for me. Uh, but I have a couple of friends. One of my bestie is a huge anime nerd, and at one point in time, I wasn't allowed to watch other TV. She made me like it was basically a nightly or a few times a week. She's like, "It's time for watching anime now." It was like, okay, but I was gonna. No, it's time for anime now. You're going to get into your bed, get all curled up. We're going to screen share, and you're going to watch anime. And so, like, there's some that I've actually come to love. Um, One of them's actually on Netflix, and this was actually from one of my friends at work, Death Note, which is a fantastic show. Even for a lot of people who aren't into the anime, it was a really good one for getting introduced into it and kind of getting you hooked because it's.
Out of that because I'd like to watch something. That's your recommendation, Death Note.
Yep, I was gonna say Death Note, which Dana, I would say, like, you know what, give that one a try if you're gonna try any sort of anime. It's more
Okay.
of a mainstream one, and it's got a really cool storyline to it, where it's literally like within the first few minutes you find out like, okay, here's this book, and if you write someone's name in it, they die within 48 hours. I think it was 48 hours of a heart attack.
Good
Or
family show.
yeah, I was gonna say not a family show at all, but it is really well done. It was my mom even actually liked it, which was shocking because she was like, "God, I hate these kind of shows." I'm like, "You actually like this?" She's like, "It's like a murder mystery. This is actually kind of fun." So that's a good one.
So if you're gonna recommend like say three, what would you say?
I was just gonna say I was gonna give you two more. I just wanna let me look up the names real quick. I think it's
Like recently, I mean, well, I would not say recently, but in general,
yes.
I like to read a lot of comics, but um, the longest time it was like, just the basic like Marvel, DC, different things like
Mhm.
that. But I've really gotten into like indie comics. So where it's just like, you won't know anything about it until you start reading it. The first real indie comic that I got into, and I would say I got into it before there was a television show of it, was Walking Dead.
Yes.
Comic, if you haven't read the comics, I love the show and everything, but the comics are way better.
Way better.
Way
Oh, absolutely agreed. Agreed.
better. Started reading them. I think there was only like 20, maybe 20 issues at the time whenever I started reading. It probably wasn't even that when I started reading. It's been like 20 years, 15 years ago. I started reading those because somebody told me, like, hey, man, you would love this because you like horror stuff too. I was like, okay. So I started reading and I was like, man, this is really good. And I got, at one point, I think I it was around like 100, issue 100. I got caught up and because I started reading them kind of slow because I didn't have a lot of time. And I got caught up and then life got busy and I forgot to continue to read them. Well, I'll tell you that actually I started watching the show and then I was
Yeah,
like,
that'll ruin it for you.
and I was like, man, there was so many like there's things about the show that I liked that I was like, that, that Daryl is not in the comics. Great character.
Right.
The way they handled Carol on the show, I thought was cool. That she's not like that in the comics. She gets killed real early and is nowhere near the same character.
Right.
And and things like that. Um, but the comics are way better. And then recently I actually downloaded all of them, digital versions, and I started reading. I finished all. I think it was like 193 or 190 something. I read all of those, and I was like, man, this was so good. It was so sad when it ended. And then the one I've started reading recently is like nobody's ever heard of it, I guess, but it's called Time Before Time, and it's a time travel syndicate, like a criminal gang that travels through time and smuggles people back in time because their future is terrible. So they smuggle them back in.
Oh, pick
time.
me. Pick me.
It's really cool.
You're just like, wait, wait.
I've gotten like 20 or 30 issues into it, and it's like one that they've already finished it. So it was like a comic for like 8 or 9 years, and they finished it. And that's kind of what I've been trying to focus on, is like find a one that I've read online that is really good, and then make sure I'm not gonna get caught up and then be like, oh damn it, now I've got to, I like to read everything. It's like binge it. I like to like read or watch a show all at once.
Yep.
And there's very few shows that I've like stuck with from start to finish. One of those was Smallville. I loved that show as a teenager, all through high school. And some of the, there's been a few others, but Smallville was like the biggest one that I watched while it was on every single week.
Mm-hmm.
I was filling time while you looked up some anime.
So Death Note is the first one. The other one that I actually liked, it's RE0.
Okay.
And then the third one, and I'm going to preface this with, it's weird, but it's part of the reason why I loved it, was Konosuba. Konosuba. I
think I've heard of that one.
So that one is weirdly like the two, RE0 and Konosuba way more. But they kind of have like a video game alternate reality-ness to them, where RE0 will actually get you in the heart at several points where things happen and you're like, oh,
why?
But why did that have to happen? And you're like, and my friend even like, she warned me ahead of time. She's like, something's going to happen to that character. I'm like, what do you mean something's going to happen?
I hate when people do that. They ruin something.
Well, it's one of those things that it took forever to get to that point. And then when it did, I'm like, no. She's like, yep. I'm like, nope. I'm like, I'm done watching for the night. We're done. I'm going to bed. I'm going to cry myself to sleep now. She's like, it's okay. There's more. I'm like, I can't. My heart can't handle more. She's like, it's okay, sweet child. It's okay. But Konosuba is like, the first two are more serious kind of shows, whereas Konosuba is just it is like unhinged, entertaining. What would happen if you got into a video game afterlife where you'd go and you'd think that you were going to be this epic hero, and it turns out that no, you're horrible at it. It's like you're level 1 in a level 50 zone. You're like, God, I'm going to die. So all three, I love those three. I mean, there's another one. I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's called
Ruby. She likes that one.
Yeah, that's another good one.
But I haven't watched it.
I've seen bits and pieces of it. I haven't seen it all the way through, but it was pretty good for what I saw. There's one called, and again, this one's a really freaking weird one, but I laughed hysterically watching it because it was so off the wall. It's called Food Wars, I think. Pretty sure that's the name of it. And they make some delicious looking food. Like, I mean, the show made me hungry because I was watching like, oh my God. Like, this looks good. And I think there's actually, I want to say there's a cookbook out from that show because everyone was like, yeah, we want what they're making. But it is the weirdest show. Like, it's them cooking for a good portion of it. And then when they try the food, if it's really good, they orgasm and their clothes go flying off.
Oh my
And
God.
so it's one of those things that's always the moment when someone walks in and sees what you're watching and they're just like,
What are you
What?
watching?
and you're like, I swear to God, it was not like this 2 seconds ago.
They were making sushi, I swear.
It's just really, really good sushi.
Oh my God. Oh man, now you're gonna make me want to go eat sushi for lunch.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, I mean, I wouldn't say no.
So it's too high. It's so expensive. Every time I go eat sushi, I spend like $60.
Oh, same.
But it's so good.
Yeah, it's just that instant moment of going, but it tastes delicious. Take my money.
It's because y'all eat the fish.
Oh, I mean, I get the veggie ones too. They get thrown in there. My favorite is the asparagus one. Oh.
I don't eat the fish.
Tell you what else. Some of them will have there's a few of them that are like the cooked ones that I like, but most of them I don't. I usually like the ones that are like the raw fish stuff. Like anything salmon or tuna or spicy tuna.
Tuna was hit and miss for me just because like I've had it a couple different places.
Yeah.
And it's not bad, but sometimes it's too like gelatinous.
Yeah.
You get it? Dana's like, no.
Oh, pretty good. Depending on where you go. There's a really sushi place right down the road. That's probably like 5 minutes from my house, and that gets me in trouble. Spend money.
That would be the moment that I'd be like, I hear it calling my name.
Yeah.
Okay, I have another non-sushi question.
It's like 30 Vietnamese guys that own it, and they're the only ones that ever make sushi there. Like they work 6 days a week. They're closed the other day, and they make all the sushi, and it's fantastic. It's so
Damn,
good.
eh? Okay, so I watch a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah, you do.
And
you read a lot of weird stuff. Let's just also add that in.
Some of the weird stuff that I watch, I recently watched Daydreams and Nightmares on Netscape, which is Indian Pakistanish kind of show. It's short stories related to scary things. Would you ever consider doing a voiceover for a show like that, where they're like talking in their own language, but you're the voice, you're the English voiceover?
So like dubbing, basically.
Yeah, see, that'd be another version of dubbing.
Yeah, I can't even say like lip sync because that's not going to happen. Like watching the old kung fu movies.
They're almost speaking like a language to us that would be considered gibberish because it's not actually a language that it's just a creative language. I mean, I try to do it. I don't really turn down a lot of stuff unless it's just something I'm like way against. Like it's just something like I'm like, okay, I don't know if I could. I've only turned down like one thing, and it was I'm trying to remember what it was. It was something like they wanted to. It was like really, really brutal, like, and it was like a cart. It was like a YouTube thing, and I was like, it was something like where they were wanting to take established, like beloved characters and have them get killed, and I was like, yeah,
oh Lord,
that's not my thing.
You're like, no, I love them. I want them to live. I don't want to see Scooby get beheaded. Why?
Something like that. It was like I don't think it wasn't like a zombie thing, but it was like something along the lines of like, yeah, Scooby Shaggy, for example, Scooby and Shaggy, and someone eats the other one or something. I was like, that's awful. Like, there's no way I would do that.
You're like, no, I love my childhood too much to kill it like this.
Right?
Yeah, like I'd say it like in a nice way. It's not like an email back and it's like, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't think that's something I'd want to work on, but if you have something else, please feel free to send it to me. I'd love to still be considered, but that's just not something that I wanted to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, it would be. Yeah, I've done some dubbing actually. I had to do some dubbing for Barney, where because that's pretty easy because it's not really like an actual lip sync. It's just the mouth and opening and closing. So that was pretty easy. But um, I'd love to, like I said earlier, I'd love to do like the Funimation, Crunchyroll, like that anime stuff because that would be dubbing, and it's you kind of have to make it somewhat match.
Right. I noticed watching that show on Netflix. I noticed that they would have a male character and he'd be all tough and brutal and his voice would so not match what the actor is portraying, and I'm like, oh my god, hire competent people to do this.
I was watching there's a new Zorro show on Amazon Prime, and
Okay.
it was made. I think it's an entirely made in Mexico production. Um, and so it's originally all of it they're speaking Spanish, but it's been dubbed over in English, and that's what we're watching is the dubbed version, and it's really good. It's actually really good. Although it'll never be to me. I was talking to my dad about it. I was like, because I'm a huge fan of the original Disney Zorro, the Guy Williams Zorro. So I was
Yep.
like, it's not gonna be as good as that to me because I just love everything about that show. But it's different. It's more serious, more dark. But pretty good show, but it's all dubbed. And I know what you're saying because like there's a few characters where I'm like, in my head, I'm going, this is supposed to be like the leader of the military of the Mexican army, and he sounds really totally different from what he looks like.
Yes.
So like, okay, it just doesn't seem right. But then I think part of it's me just because I'm so tuned into listening to the voice and stuff. So like because my dad recommended I watch the show, and when I started talking to him about it the other day, he was like, "You're just being too critical of the show. I think it's a very good show, and I think they did a good." And I'm like, "But you don't think this?" And he's like, "No, I didn't even think about it." But then I realized he actually didn't even realize it was dubbed, and I was like,
Yeah.
he argued. He was like, "No, it's English. It's like it's not dubbed." He's like, "Their mouth matches perfect," and I'm like, "It does not," but okay. And I showed it to him, and I was showing him a clip of it. And he was like, "I don't know, that's pretty close." And I'm like, "It's not bad. They did a good job, but it's not.
Mm.
It's not matching." I said,
Yep.
"There's some syllables that will match and look good, but most of it is like, I mean, it's not going to be perfect when you're dubbing something."
Yeah.
Kind of like if you watch the old "The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly" movie with Clint Eastwood.
Yes.
You'll see that because it was an Italian production, some of the people, their mouth doesn't match exact, and it's because they're speaking Italian.
Oh God, yeah. Like you go back to the older movies like that, like you were talking about a few minutes ago there, Dana, with the like the old kung fu movies. Like
Oh
my father
god.
watched
Those are the
all of
worst.
them.
Their
Oh,
mouth isn't even moving, but you hear a voice and then they're talking and there's nothing.
yep. I was just say you see their mouth. I must defend my family. And
They're
you're like,
you're like,
you're like, I think they might have messed up that little bit with the dub. And it's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, my dad used to watch those too.
That I can remember growing up with those and thinking that they were normal until I started watching normal TV, and then I was like, hey, wait a minute. People's mouths move and the words come out at that moment?
Yeah.
Well, that's just weird.
Such was the dawn of the closed caption, right? The words at the bottom of the TV to tell you exactly what they're saying.
Oh, the good days.
Yeah, I
Very
learned
good days.
I do a lot of video editing on the side for different people, and like one of the things that is always fun is whenever it's like, oh hey, we have um, unless it's like something that you have the recording on the video. If it's like hey, we were videoed it with this, but there's no audio, and then the audio's on this. So trying to sync up the voice and the the picture is sometimes a
Yes.
challenge. You have to figure out what syllables actually line up perfectly with. And it's usually B's and P's. So if you can find B's and P's throughout it, those will match perfectly with the sound that's been coming out of the lips. Whereas
to figure that out.
Oh,
So I have a question.
I lost audio.
oh. I can still hear you.
I would say I can hear him. Oh, I wonder if his earbud died.
Yeah, my earbud died. I can hear you though now. I don't know. It might echo a little bit because I have it on my speakers.
No, you're good.
Yeah, I would say you're good. So my mom works from home. She does holistic stuff, and actually, a couple of her clients are like local voice actors, and one of them, if I remember correctly, he's actually done like audio books.
Mhm.
Have you ever thought about doing something like that? Like,
I've
would
done
that be something in your wheelhouse?
Yeah, I've done some kids audiobooks, and those are fun to do because you can do characters usually with them.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were for that Mr. K's Clubhouse. He actually has some books that he's done, and I've done audiobooks for that. And then I've done a few other ones for like local people who like basically they sell their stuff on Amazon. But yeah, I would if I was doing voiceover without another job and it was like my primary job, that's a really good avenue to keep yourself busy.
Mm-hmm.
But it takes, it's obviously, I like doing the kids' books because they're short.
Yeah.
Right.
I like to read, but I've never been somebody who enjoys reading out loud very much.
Yeah.
So it just depends. I would probably do it if I had if it was just, I was just doing voiceover and nothing else. And I had the time to do it, I would do it because it'd be fun. Especially, but I would probably be really picky on what books I chose just because, I mean, if you're going to tell me like, hey, read this, book about, something I'm not interested in at all, I would hate that. It would be awful. But, because a lot of, thinking, okay, it's like 8 hours or 10 hours of reading.
Yeah.
But that's editing. So it might be 15 to 20 hours where you messed up. So, yeah. I definitely like doing the kids' books because they're short, they're usually fun, they're entertaining, you can do some voice stuff, character things, which is fun. Like I did one for the Mr. K's Clubhouse that's called Carry the Car. And it's basically a book about this car, it's making a character out of an inanimate object. So your car is a character. And he's excited because he gets to transport people to and from work in different places. So it's kind of just it's a fun kids book. So I had to do the voice of Carry the Car and different things like that. Like make honking noises. My cat's walking around in the background.
If I won't use any names, but if a animated company came to you and said that they were in development for a new animated movie or animated series and they wanted you to create a voice for a character, would that be something that would like totally interest you?
Oh, 100%, yeah. I think my first question would be like, wait, you're not going to use Chris Pratt to do his normal voice? No, that seems like that's what it is now. Like that is one thing me and my wife talked about the other day was like all these movies, like the big Hollywood movies now that are animated, mm-hmm. It's like they just use actors. They don't even use, and a lot of them they're using their own voice.
Yes, which is annoying to me.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, if it's like a really cool voice, like I would say like having James Earl Jones, which man, I'm sad about him passing. But having him do Mufasa was fantastic, so, and that's his normal voice mostly. Mm-hmm. And then you have Matthew Broderick as Simba. Yes. Disney kind of, I think, started that trend of like, let's put a person in there and let's let them just use their normal voice. And they kind of did that, I think, in the 90s, maybe the 80s, but definitely the 90s.
I would say definitely more so the 90s, because that's what we very much grew up with. Before that, it was very, okay, change the pitch of your voice. If you're going to be Snow White, you need to be very high pitched and you need to sound more like this because she's a prim, proper girl.
Yeah.
Versus being like, hey, I'm Snow White. No,
Yeah.
you're not.
Yeah.
Then you have Lion King with Matthew Broderick, the Great Circle of Life. You know, that whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's interesting.
That's one of my favorite. I really like Matthew Broderick though.
Oh yeah.
Grew up with him, which I don't think it was really a successful movie, but I always loved the Inspector Gadget movie with him.
Yes.
And of course Ferris Bueller. Ferris Bueller's like the best.
They made an Inspector Gadget movie?
You've never seen them? There's more than one.
Yeah, the first one's my favorite. I think because it was really, I don't know, I really liked it. I grew up watching the first one. I think
note to self.
I think a lot of people who love Inspector Gadget, like the cartoon, they like the second one better. Because they say it's much more like the cartoon and silly. Whereas the first one was more of a straightforward, like serious version of it. But definitely lighthearted, definitely not like thing. It's Disney, so but yeah, it's really good.
All right, I will check those out.
You both have homework now.
I would, if you're really like, if you're not like a huge fan of the cartoon Inspector Gadget.
I loved the cartoon.
Okay, well then you might like the second one more, but I really love the first one. I see all these like memes on every now and then on Facebook and stuff where they're like, they make comments about some of these movies that as a kid I loved, and they'll be like, nobody actually likes this movie, and I'm like, oh man. And one of them was Inspector Gadget. I was like, they were like, that's a terrible movie, and I was like, oh my god, like I've watched that movie in the last year and a half with my daughter, and by the way, she loved it, so so that person's wrong.
I know exactly what you mean. One of my all-time favorite movies, and I don't know why, but one of my all-time favorite movies is Nacho Libre with Jack Black.
Yeah.
And I have yet to find somebody that likes that movie. And yet I'll watch it 2-3 times a year.
It was first out, and I don't even remember much about it.
I freaking love it.
Oh my god. It's like, I remember it exists, and that's basically about it. Like, I know I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it one time, I think.
I'll be like quoting the movie, and people be looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" And I'll be like,
"He's a
Nacho?
wrestler, right?
He's a what?
Yes.
Is he a wrestler in it?
A luchador.
Yeah. There we go. That's it.
He's the cook at the orphanage. He's a monk.
I forgot about that.
I don't remember this movie at all, but I know what you're talking about. I know I've seen it because I know exactly what he looks like as the character.
Literally, to me, next to School of Rock, it's Jack Black's best movie.
Now,
yeah.
The School of Rock or not like that I've heard.
My favorite Jack Black movies are School of Rock, Tenacious D, and The Pick of Destiny.
Pick of Destiny, yes.
Shallow Hal is really good.
Oh, I love Shallow Hal.
And what was the other one? There's another one he's in. Oh, I like him in crap, what was the name of the movie? Tropic Thunder's funny.
Yes.
It's so weird. Like, it's a weird movie. But it's
weird but so good.
Yeah.
And
that's the one that has Sylvester Stallone in it?
No.
Thunder?
I don't think
Robert
so.
Downey Jr.
And
yes.
Jack Black. And actually the Jumanji movie that Jack Black is in, the sequel one, it's hilarious because it's a video. They're like playing, instead of it being a board game, Jumanji's a video game. And so they're in this video game. And the characters in the video game, the avatars of the video game, is like Jack Black and The Rock and Kevin Hart and all this. But the actual kids that are playing those characters that got pulled into the game, Jack Black's character is a girl. It's a teenage girl.
I
It's
loved watching
so
him play
funny.
that.
Oh, I will have to
So
look that
funny.
one up.
Because he's like he's very feminine, and it's so funny because she's like the pretty teenage like popular girl,
Mhm.
and she's having to be in Jack Black's body, and it's funny. And then the real tall like football player guy is Kevin Hart, and he's like super short, and it's hilarious. And then the real wimpy dork like kid is the Rock, Dwayne
Mhm.
Johnson. And so they're all like against the character that they actually are, and it's so funny.
Oh, I will look
It
that
is.
one up.
I would say
enjoyed
nowhere
the
near as
first
good as the
one.
original Jumanji, but it's
Oh,
totally
no.
different. It's
Yeah.
a good movie on its own
Hmm.
because it's so different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
Definitely give them a watch because they're entertaining, and I think if I remember right, I liked the second one even better than the first because I laughed harder in the second one.
I've like literally made a little list on my phone here.
He's like,
I have
"I gotta watch
Movies
this."
to watch.
A list of like all those animes and stuff.
He's like, I'm gonna go into Funimation, be like, let's go.
Awesome. Well, we've been chatting for like an hour and a half now.
Everybody tells me that I should have my own podcast because I talk so much.
I think that's basically how we got this.
Yeah, pretty much. Because we talked about the most mundane things. People were like, you should get a podcast and just talk about anything. So we did, and here we are.
Thought about having like a doing my own podcast with like I was thinking I want to just do one like with my dad, me and my dad, and like I was telling him I was like I'll be like the main host every episode, but my co-host would be an alternating list of people. So like I'd have my dad on one of them, one of my best friends from high school, people who don't have any connection to anything that has to do with entertainment or productions or anything, because I told my dad, I was like, he's like really into music, which I am too, and we like music from all different like years, genres, different like my top favorite like musician or singers or musicians are like Dean Martin, I like Frank Sinatra, I love George Strait, I like I went and saw Green Day a couple weeks ago.
Oh, I love Green Day.
I like anything from. I'm actually going to see. There's a band, Flogging Molly. I'm going to see them Wednesday.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know about them.
So Irish stuff. So I like everything. Like there's very little music that I'm like, unless it's just like totally. There's new stuff. Like I would say I'm not really into the stuff that's on popular right now.
Mm-hmm.
But anything from like 8 to 10 years ago back all the way to like the 1920s.
Yes.
I love it. I mean, there's a lot of like really old. I went and saw Bob Wills' Texas Playboys a couple weeks ago, like a month or so back. I go to a lot of concerts. I just bought tickets to go see Weird Al for the 4th time.
We got ours today.
Oh, y'all did?
I just saw you posting that.
Yeah, I'm
Weird Al
going
with
to,
Puddles Pity Party.
Yeah, I've seen him, I think 3 times. This will be the 4th. And my wife's never seen him before. And so I was like, my brother has said he's not a Weird Al fan. He doesn't like Weird Al that much. He's not really into comedy music that much. But he went with us to 2 of his shows. And after the first time, and we've been to, like, there was a stretch of time where after my parents got divorced when I was like 12 or something, my dad suddenly had all this money that he didn't have before. Not that it's like wealthy or anything, but he had like extra money that wasn't getting spent. And so he was like, let's just start going to concerts. And so we would go to like 1 or 2 concerts every single week.
That's awesome.
Damn.
Friday, Saturday, we would be at a different concert both nights. And maybe we would even have one in the weeknights, and he'd just be like, y'all are just going to be really tired tomorrow. It's going to be fine. So I've probably seen close to 700 or 800 shows through some time I was a teenager to now. And
that's amazing.
He anyway, we trying to think where this came from, what this thought was. Weird Al. So my brother has seen just about as many as I have, and he said, I mean, we've seen like Aerosmith and ZZ Top and Green Day and Foreigner and every classic rock band you could almost think of. And my brother says, I think that was the best show I've ever seen. Like as far as like the production, the talent, like what he's doing is just so produced so well. He was like, the showmanship was what he said. He said it was just the best thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, he's so entertaining. Like I don't know.
He's coming out in all the costumes and stuff. Like
exactly.
He sings fat. He's got the huge fat suit on. Yeah, he does white and nerdy. He comes rolling out on a Segway dressed like in the gangster like stuff, and then he comes out dressed as the Amish guy for Amish Paradise and all these different ones, and it's just hilarious. For a little bit, he was doing it was that song "I'm in Love with a Stripper" song.
Oh yeah.
He had a version of that was only in concert. He didn't do it in an album, but it was. He comes out dressed up as Gilligan from Gilligan's Island, and it's "I'm in Love with the Skipper."
The Skipper.
And it's hilarious though. It's Gilligan, and it's just every single song almost. He's got a costume change. He does this medley of like a handful of songs, and he's got like 8 shirts on or 8 different outfits, and he's just taking them off as the song changes. And so he's like in all these different costumes within like 6 minutes, and it's hilarious.
It is. So, yeah,
it's like if you haven't seen Weird Al, you should go see him. It's great.
Like I say, clearly he needs to be on my list.
I've been to concerts that have been epic productions, and I can honestly say that the Weird Al concerts that I have been to have been top-notch entertainment-wise.
Yeah, you can tell he really that's his passion. He likes to do it, and I'd love to meet him so bad. I'd love to meet him.
Same.
So cool. I was looking at the tickets. I was like, oh, they have a VIP thing for every single. No matter where you're sitting, you can actually just add on a VIP where you get to take a picture with him and meet him and everything. But I was like, I was so interested in doing that, and I was like, oh, it's like $200 and something. Like, I don't have that.
I feel like I need to sell my voice
no way am I doing
that.
Hey, listen, I was ready to put my car. Okay, so my main genre of music is heavy metal.
Yeah.
When I popped my husband's heavy metal concert virginity, I took him to go see Metallica, and they had Avenged Sevenfold and Volbeat open for them. Because my husband's like looking around, I'm like, woo!
My wife's favorite band is Hailstorm.
Okay, yeah.
And I liked it. I thought it was great. We went. I like the music. I like her stuff. But I Prevail opened for him, and a lot of people love I Prevail, obviously, because there was like a huge, there's people there that actually was weird because like I Prevail was the open. Like they were. I think I don't know for sure, but I think they're kind of like both equally popular and known, like I Prevail and Hailstorm.
I don't say so.
Sure. I think Hailstorm's probably a little more popular. They were the headline, like they were the men, but they were like dual headlines, so it was like it was like them and Hailstorm. And I think it's some of their shows on the tour, maybe they're swapping, like one of them plays last, the other one plays first.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But totally, I Prevail was totally way harder metal stuff than Hailstorm. But yeah, that's not like, I'm not really super into screamo if it's like the entire song is screamo. if it's just used throughout a song, I like it. But I'm just never been really into the screamo stuff. So whenever I was standing there watching that, I was just like, I didn't have any clue what was going on. And then Hailstorm came out and I was like, okay, this is great. I love it. So not that I Prevail's not good. It's just not my music.
Yeah. I actually like to hear words in music, not
yes. Or you just hear it screaming at you, and you're like, "What? Did you say something about put the laundry in the dryer? What?"
So my ultimate goal is to get him to a Rammstein concert. I mean, we may have to go to Germany for it, but that's my ultimate goal.
Yeah.
I so want to be there for that one, and I'm going to be holding up the camera going, I know
That'd make a great podcast.
What'd you do for your life tonight? Yeah! Here's Norm. Just terrified everywhere.
Earplugs in.
Probably have to have double deep. Oh.
Oh well. Okay. Let's wrap things up so that you can go and do what
Take care
you
of
need
his
to do
daughter.
there, Korey.
Yeah.
So we thank you. We thank you for coming on to the show. It's been super fun talking to you.
Yes.
I'm absolutely like jealous that you can do all these voices. I barely sound like I'm human some days. Yeah, keep up the good work, and we'd love to hear more from you. Definitely.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, anytime y'all want to have me on, let me know. I'll jump on. I have some other stuff that I'm doing that I'm not ready to announce because it's not that I have NDAs, but it's like they want me to wait until then, So whenever that comes out later, I think it's like middle of maybe spring of next year.
Okay.
One of them is called originally the title was Crawligators, but now it's called Clawigators, and it had to do with there was already a website called Crawligators or something. So, but it's a puppet based show, and it's being done by a guy named Jess Nelson. I'm going to be doing several voices for that, and one of the people doing the voices in it is Josh Martin that does some Dragon Ball stuff. And
nice.
That's out hopefully sometime next year. They've been working on like the production part of it, of like building the puppets and the sets and all of that, and kind of starting on the scripts and everything. And I've been getting some of those, which is pretty exciting because it's all a lot of, like you were talking about earlier, of like these are all new characters, make up your own voices for them, which I love doing. It's fun.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Hopefully it takes off. The guy Jess Nelson, he's a sculptor, and he actually made the original, or not, I don't know if it was the original, but handful of the Barney dolls in the show. Like before he would turn into the character, when he was the doll, he made those. So this is like going to be like a New Orleans, like, Cajun type influence to a show. Is what it's going to be. He kind of he went on a trip to New Orleans in the 90s and kind of fell in love with the culture, and that's why he's basically been pitching around this idea since the mid 90s. And
wow.
He wanted to do it. Finally decided he wanted to kind of try something with it. So I'm excited to be a part of it. That's one of the things I'm doing. But when that starts coming out and we get there's more information on it, and it's kind of ready to start marketing, I'll let y'all know. Maybe I can
absolutely
come back.
Yeah, you can come on and basically sell it to us. That'd be great.
We'll happily help you.
Yeah.
Hype it all up. That is a hard sentence to say. Happily help you hype it up.
Happily help you hype it up.
Good God.
A lot of alliteration.
Even when it's accidental and you're like, oh. But yes,
so again,
we have to have you back.
Yeah, we thank you, and we'll definitely keep in touch, and you can let us know when you have new projects coming out. We'll have you back on, and we can definitely get you on and talking about that. That'd be great.
Fun.
Hell yeah.
And if you need me to sign you out, I'll do it as Tweety Bird. Or, sorry,
go for
I'm sorry,
it.
not Tweety Bird, it's Porky Pig. Pig.
Have at it.
Go for it.
That's all, folks.
That just made my entire weekend.
Have a good one, everyone.
See you guys later.
Bye.